I have been saying for years that not making a animated adaptation of Knightfall, one of the biggest Batman stories there is an absolute crime. Now, when I'm talking about making an adaptation, I am of course talking about, an adaptation that loves and respects the source material, like a lot of the other DC animated movie adaptations we've had, like Batman Under the Red Hood, or The Dark Knight Returns, or Batman Year One. Those adaptations are like so faithful to their original counterpart. And in the case of Under the Red Hood, I think that movie is actually better than the comic. Um, but I have always said that I think Knightfall is the perfect adaptation. I personally think that if a Batman, a new Batman animated TV show comes out, one that doesn't suck, Knightfall is an entire season. Like, that can just be a whole season of a show, is Knightfall. And finally, that's happening because Warner Brothers announced today at New York Comic Con that Knightfall is finally getting an animated adaptation. So it's going to be a 4-part adaptation. This adaptation is going to be split into 4 movies. Now, DC splitting adaptations into parts is nothing new. Of course, like I previously mentioned, The Dark Knight Returns was adapted into 2 movies, part 1, part 2. The Long Halloween was part 1, part 2. They did The Death and Return of Superman as a 2-part movie. So it's not out of the blue for them to do multi-part adaptations of something, especially when it's a comic or a story that's so big it can't be done in a movie. But they're going 4 parts for this one. Okay, so the movie is set to be released part 1 in 2026. No time in 2026, just 2026. The synopsis they gave is: when the mysterious behemoth known as Bane frees Batman's entire Rose Gallery from Arkham Asylum, the Cape Crusader is pushed to his mental and physical breaking point. So they are going to be adapting like Knightfall, right? Bane breaks the criminals out of Arkham to wear Batman down, so that way when he encounters Batman, Batman is, not 100%, and Bane can easily break him. So it looks like, from what I can tell, we're going to be having Knightfall as part 1, Knight's Quest is part 2, Knight's End is part 3, so that just leaves what part 4 is. I would assume Prodigal Son would be part 4, maybe? But I'm looking forward. I mean, here's the thing. I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Because Knightfall is one of the, biggest comic book stories ever, right? And the fact that we're finally going to get an adaptation of it is very exciting and very, like, okay, finally. I've been saying this for years. I'd love to see this be adapted. But I have my trepidation because this is, current day DC Comics, which is nowhere near the level of quality of DC when the previous animated adaptations came out. I mean, hell, their last adaptation was the Batman movie where he was an Aztec warrior. Someone didn't do their research on the Aztecs, did they? No? So the movie is going to be written by Jeremy Adams. That does fill me with hope, because Jeremy Adams is one of the few good writers at DC nowadays. So the fact he's writing this movie, I do have a bit of hope there that Jeremy will be able to capture a lot of what goes on in the movie. Of course, we have the logo, which is the thumbnail for this. So it is taking the Batman Knightfall logo, which is nice. So there we go. Batman Knightfall Part 1 is Knightfall. I am like I said, I'm trepidatious about it. I'd love to see, I'd love it for it to be good, right? I want this to be great. I want this to be just Knightfall leaps off the page. But I'm also worried that we may not get that. Now this is all they announced. It's 4 parts. Part 1 comes out in 2026. We know no cast about this, so we can always speculate on who will play what. I'm assuming we're probably going to get a bunch of new voice actors to voice these characters. This doesn't seem like it's going to be a part of any continuity, right? Like, it's not part of the Tomorrowverse, which was the previous one, because they killed that with their weird Crisis on Infinite Earths adaptation. That was a weird thing. So they killed that. And It looks like we're going back to the days of just standalone animated movies, which I'm all for. I am all for that, especially if you're going to be adapting, iconic comic stories. I just wish, like, I hope for the day I can get an animated TV show of a superhero that literally just goes and just adapts the comic stories, one after another, and gives me that comic leaped off the page into like a TV show or a movie. I wish for the days. The closest thing we got to that is Batman the Animated Series for Batman, right? That's the closest we get, because even though it's got some of the best Batman, it's the best Batman TV show, absolutely. Even though it has that, they did adapt stories from Batman comics as well. They redefined characters like Mr. Freeze, and all that, right? Like Mr. Freeze was completely redefined, right? They helped make Two-Face pretty serious as well. So they did a lot of, and they invented Harley Quinn for the freaking show, right? Like, so they did a lot of great things from that show from the scratch, but they did adapt comic books. Like the Ra's al Ghul comic was pretty much, like, the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul was pretty much adapted into the two-parter, right? So, they have taken the comic stories before and adapted them. So I just wish for a day where I can get like a Batman animated show and they're just adapting the comic stories just like beat for beat after, right? Maybe you make a bit of changes for stuff that didn't work for right? But I am a purist. I prefer authentic, pure adaptations of things. So yeah, I'm skeptical. I'm hopefully optimistic. That's not suited me well for a lot of things recently, where I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, I'm cautiously optimistic, and then I go and watch something and I'm like, oh, why was I hopeful at all for this, but I mean, DC animation is not DC live action stuff, right? Hopefully it looks like this doesn't have James Gunn on it at all, which is a blessing in disguise. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Knightfall. As to who could play the characters, like I said, I think we're gonna get an entirely new voice cast. I think for Batman, most likely we're gonna get a returning voice actor, whether it be Troy Baker or Roger Craig Smith, maybe Jensen Ackles. I'd love for Jensen to come back. I do. I really liked him in the Long Halloween adaptation, and his Batman voice was good in the other Tomorrowverse movies. Even if those movies weren't the best, his Batman was still good. So I'd like him to get another crack at a Batman story, and he does Knightfall. I think that'd be good. But Troy Baker or Roger Craig Smith is really good choices as well. So is Bruce Greenwood. He's also very, very good as Batman. So, like, if any of those guys come back, I'd be down for it. For Bane, I think we're going to get an entirely new voice for Bane. Like I said, I think most of this voice cast is going to be, like, entirely new voice actors, with maybe a couple returning ones. Like, for Joker, I don't know who you'd get. Troy Baker, probably, because Troy Baker's probably, like, he's, like, their go-to for Joker now, because Mark Hamill doesn't do it anymore. So, I'm assuming we'll probably get Troy Baker for Joker. But there we go. That's it. These are my brief thoughts on the Knightfall 4-parter announced. What do you all think? Let me know. Are you guys excited for a Knightfall adaptation? Are you cautious like me about this? It's like a wait and see. I kind of got to see a trailer too and all that type of stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So thank you all so much for listening. And I will catch you guys all next time. Take care.